Aloha kako. This is the Committee on Education. Today's date is February the 7th. It's 2:00 p.m. and we are in conference room 309. We have several bills to clear today, so we'll just get started with it. First up is HB 1328, Charter Schools and Facilities Funding. And we have the Charter School Commission in person and support.
Good afternoon, Chair Woodson, Vice Chair Martin, and members of the committee. Yvonne Lau on behalf of the Interim Executive Director of the Charter School Commission. We stand on our written testimony in strong support of this bill, and thank you for recognizing that our charter schools deserve facilities funding. I'm available for any questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for being here. Next, we have the Board of Education providing testimony and support. Okay, we have HSTA providing testimony and support.
Aloha, chairs and members. Laverne Moore, speaking on behalf of Osa Tui Jr., President of the Hawaii State Teachers Association. The Hawaii State Teachers Association supports House Bill 1328. And we want to point out that they only get $8,745 per year to fund their program. It's not enough to pay for the facilities and the rent. And I want to also point out that public charter schools, they meet a certain need that the community has. And because of that, we should support them to help them pay for their facilities and rent because of the need they're creating for the community. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being here. Next, we have Kekula'o. We have the principal, the chair, and a couple of individuals all providing testimony and support. If any of them are here and wants to testify. Okay, we have Kanai O'Kana providing testimony and support. We are here. We have Aha Punana Leo providing testimony and support. And we have about 3 different individuals all providing testimony and support. Is there anyone wishing to provide testimony on this bill? HB 1328. Seeing none, members, any questions? I have a question for the Charter School Commission.
Yes, Chair.
I thank you so much for being here. And so how many charter schools that you currently have online that do not have lease rent or a mortgage to pay for their campus?
I don't have the exact numbers, but there are very few that some of them are on state property. For those that are on either DHHL land or Department of Land and Natural Resources property, their lease rent is probably very low. I did give you a breakdown of all of the charter schools and their
Yes.
current facilities costs, so I think you'll see that there. I have it in front of me. But I think the ones that you see that are very low or minimum lease rents are probably the ones that are on state property.
I see. And so it seems from this chart that these particular schools do not need the extra or additional funding.
I don't want to speak for them,
Okay.
but certainly the ones that are paying much higher lease rent are having to manage. The per pupil changes every year depending on how much the legislature and the governor signs off on. It's based on the overall education budget, 100, 200, 300, 400. So this current year, I believe the per pupil is close to 9,200 a student per pupil, but it varies, right? And so every school is managing their own budgets, and I think based on the lease rents that you see there, they have to manage that. So it's hard to answer the question specifically, but I think for those that have little to minimal cost, it's not as much of an issue.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Members, any other questions? Vice Chair?
Just a follow-up on the chair's question.
Yes.
I know Kauhau in my community is on DOE property.
Yes, it's a conversion school.
Yeah. Are all of the ones that are just have 0, are they pretty much all conversion schools?
I believe there, yeah, so Kauhau is one. Kamaili Academy is also a conversion school. Kuala Pu'u on Molokai is a conversion school. Waimea Middle on Hawaii Island is a conversion charter school. So, for those schools, those are on former DOE schools, and they don't pay rent on those.
Thank you, Vice Chair. Members, any other questions? Seeing none, moving on to the next
Thank you.
bill. Thank you. We have HB 1345 regarding teacher licensure pathways for cultural practitioner and public charter schools. First up, we have the Charter School Commission providing testimony and support.
Thank you, Chair, Vice Chair, members
Well,
of the committee.
Actually, comments.
Sorry, yes, stand on our written comments regarding this bill, and I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Kana Oka'aina providing testimony, also providing comments. And we have individual testimony from one person. That's all I have. Is there anyone wishing to provide testimony on this bill? HB 1345. Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, moving on to the next bill, HB 1210, alternate sports leagues for West Oahu Public Schools. First up, we have Department of Education providing comments.
Good afternoon, Chair Woodson, Vice Chair Martin, members of the committee. I'm Heidi Armstrong, representing the Department of Education, and we stand on our written testimony offering comments. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Next, we have AG's office providing comments via Zoom. Oh, in person. Please come up.
Good afternoon, Chair Woodson, Vice Chair Martin, and members of the committee, Deputy Attorney General Ann Horiuchi. As set forth in our testimony, we raised several concerns. One, the requirement that the DOE operate a sports league that includes private school children who do not attend public schools would be in violation of the Hawaii Constitution. We have offered amendments to address that concern. The second concern we raised was that having the DOE operate a sports league conflicts with its powers as set forth in 302A-1128. Again, we have suggested revisions to address that concern. And the third concern we raised is that the requirement that the teams in this league be divided by biological gender for each sport may conflict with existing state law and as well as federal law. So again, we've suggested that provision be stricken from the bill. I'll be available for comments.
Thank you. We received your
you.
testimony.
Questions?
It's very thoughtful. Thank you. That's all I have on my list. Is there anyone else wishing to provide testimony for this bill? Seeing none, members, are there any questions?
Chair.
Please go ahead.
For the AG's office, thank you. Thank you for testifying. You mentioned that there is the issue with biological gender in regards to the state law currently.
Yes.
What law does it violate?
First, we cited to the state constitution under, Article 10, Section 1. It says there shall be no discrimination in public educational institutions because of sex, amongst other protected classes. The other statute that we cited to is under, 368D-1A and D 368D-3. And those statutes basically indicate that covered educational institutions, of which the Department of Education is one, are not allowed to discriminate on the basis of sex.
So sex and gender are different or the same?
No, well, under the cross-reference statute, sex includes gender orientation, gender identity.
So you can change your sex.
That's not germane. Keep it germane, please, Representative.
To the bill. The bill says biological, right? So that's the issue that you're having.
Right, and so the way that we are viewing the interpretation of state law and probably federal law is that limiting these teams to biological sex would be in violation of these state and federal
Thank
statutes.
you, and it was germane, thank you.
It's not germane, and these are protected classes, so keep it
The bill
germane.
says biological.
Or
so I'm
else
questioning.
I'm going to cut you off again.
Carry on.
Any other questions, members? Okay, seeing none, moving on to the next bill, we have HB 658, alternate school programs. First up, we have Department of Education providing comments.
Good afternoon. Heidi Armstrong, Department of Education, and we stand on our written testimony offering comments. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. We have testimony from one individual, Dawn Shirota, providing testimony in support. Not present, that's all I have. Is there any other testifiers? Seeing none, members, are there any other questions? Okay, seeing none, moving on to the next bill, we have HB 1046 regarding health care services and the Department of Education. First up, we have DOE providing testimony and support. Superintendent.
Hello, Chair Woodson, Vice Chair Martin, members of the committee. Keith Hayashi, Superintendent, testifying on behalf of the Department of Education. The department stands on its written testimony in support of this measure. Thank you for the opportunity to testify.
Thank you for being here. Next, we have Department of Health providing testimony and support.
Good afternoon, Chairs Woodson, Vice Chair Martin, and members of the committee. My name is Joan Takamori, Public Health Nursing Branch Chief on behalf of Dr. Kenny Fink for the Department of Health. We are in support and stand on our written testimony, and I am available for any questions that you may have.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. Next, we have the University of Hawaii providing testimony and support.
Good afternoon, Chair Woodson, Vice Chair Martin, members of the committee. My name is Clementina Seria Ulep. I'm the interim dean for the University of Hawaii at Manoa, Nancy Atmosphera Law School of Nursing. Thank you for the opportunity to provide testimony in strong support of this measure, House Bill 1046. And I'm here as well as Dr. Deb Matus, who heads the Hawaii Keiki program, are available to answer questions you may have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Next, we have Hawaii State Center for Nursing providing testimony and support.
The Center for Nursing stands on our written testimony.
Thank you. Thank you. We have Hawaii Primary Care Association providing testimony and support. We have Epilepsy Foundation of Hawaii providing testimony and support. Okay. Is there anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Seeing none, members, are there any questions? I have a question for DOE or DOH. And it's just a very simple question. What are the educational licensing or training requirements for a school health assistant?
School health assistants only require high school education, CPR, and first aid. That's it. They are not nurses and they are not licensed.
Okay. And so what is the general process for administering medication through approved professionals, through these assistants?
All requests for medications are given to Department of Health. We review all the requests. And it's not just a simple approval process. As registered nurses, we actually review, work on building capacity of students working on building school. And once we approve it for the school setting, what we do is we pass it on to the school health assistant and the principal. Then we do training, and we also work with the Hawaii Keiki Ready for Learn to do training with the school health assistants on an annual basis. They're also on campus. And so this is part of the reason why we'd like to expand access to care for these students at DOE. Right now, it's only DOH, public health nurses, that review the approvals.
Okay, thank you so much. Members, any other questions? Okay. Seeing none, okay, moving on to the next bill, we have HB 942, Emergency Medical Response Teams within the DOE. First up, we have Department of Education providing testimony and support.
Good afternoon, Chair Woodson, Vice Chair Martin, members of the committee. Kurt Otoguro, Deputy Superintendent, testifying on behalf of the department. As you know, the department stands on its written testimony in support. We're here to answer any questions that you may have. I would just add that this measure, if approved, already expands what we currently have in place.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have testimony from the Attorney Generals providing comments.
Good afternoon, Chair Woodson, Vice Chair Martin, and members, and Horiuchi from the Department of the Attorney General. As set forth in our testimony, it wasn't completely clear in the bill if this measure is meant to include charter schools, and so we have suggested revisions if it's meant to include charter schools or if it's not meant to include charter schools. The other recommendation we have in our testimony is that the bill add language that would address the potential liability of the critical emergency response team members. And this is modeled after language in a different statute, but also relating to the Department of Education. Thank you, and I'll be available for questions.
Okay, thank you for being here. Next, we have Hawaii Children's Action Network Speaks, providing testimony and support.
Stand on the written testimony and support.
Thank you for being here. Happy New Year. Next, we have Caring for Hawaii Neonates, providing testimony and support. Here. Okay, we have Hawaii FASD Action Group. I'm not sure what that stands for. In support. We have about a dozen individuals all providing testimony and support. That's all I have on my list. Is there anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Please come up and state your name and your affiliate.
Hi, okay, thank you. My name is Amanda Luning. I'm the parent that drafted this legislation after an incident with my son. And I just, we passed yesterday in the Senate, and I just would hope that the language in the amendments that were made via the support of the folks that are here would be adopted in this bill if you chose to pass it. I
Thank
stand
you.
in support of my
We have your
testimony.
testimony. Thank you for
Thank
being
you.
here. Okay, anyone else? Seeing none, members, are there any questions about this bill? No questions? No questions thus far. Okay, moving on to HB 1223. This is a loan forgiveness program for DOE teachers. First up, we have DOE providing comments.
Good afternoon again, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Kurt Otoguro, Deputy Superintendent, testifying on behalf of the department. We respectfully submit some comments for consideration. There are some nuances in that bill, but we're here to answer any questions that you may have.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Next, we have testimony providing comments from DBED, Director Salaveria. Okay, we have testimony from HSTA in person in support.
Livermore, speaking on behalf of Osa Tue, Junior President of the Hawaii State Association, we support House Bill 1223. This bill would reduce the struggle substantially by providing loan forgiveness to teachers committed to teaching in the hard-to-fill positions in Hawaii. We believe this could help address our significant teacher shortage by providing relief for our financially overburdened teachers. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next, we have testimony from the Democratic Party of Hawaii Education Caucus providing testimony and support. We have testimony from two individuals, one in support, one providing comments. Anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none, members, please come up and state your name and your affiliate.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Cheryl Beeler. I'm just sitting here right now listening to this, and I'm wondering about the loan forgiveness. Who pays for that? Me? I'm a senior citizen. I depend on a certain amount of money every month. You guys, teachers, after all these years, you can't pay off your bills? So where is that money going to come from? Who's going to pay for that? Are you? Are you? You are. You are. Diamond, you are. And everybody else in here is.
Madam,
So
please,
I am-
please
I do
don't
not-
point at us.
So,
We're
so I
listening
do
to
not,
your
I do
concern.
not support this bill.
Thank you for your participation. Can you please submit your written testimony so we have that for our record? Thank you. Any others would like to testify on this bill? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Okay. Seeing none, moving on to the next bill, HB 1327, with regards to tax credits for the Department of Education and state library employees. First up, we have Department of Education providing comments.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee, Kurt Otoguro, Deputy Superintendent. Department stands on its written testimony, offering comments. I will say that the department has been working on alternative means for benefiting teachers and staff members with regard to this. So happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you for being here. Next, we have the Department of Taxation providing comments.
Hello, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. My name is David Richmond, here on behalf of Public Taxation. The department stands on its written testimony. Answer the question.
Thank you. We have BNF providing comments. Next, we have the Executive Office of Early Learning providing testimony and support.
Aloha, Chair Woodson, Vice Chair Martin, and members of the committee. I'm Yuko Arikawa Cross, Director of the Executive Office on Early Learning. We stand on our written testimony and support the intent of HB 1327. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Next, we have testimony from HSTA in support. Okay.
Okay, the HST supports this bill, and you have a long written testimony that tells you how much money all the teachers, well, basically a lot of the teachers spend. So this would be.
Can you please comment? Okay, you're finished. Okay, never mind.
Was it me? Was not me?
Thank you so much. All right. Next, we have Hawaii Children's Action Network Speaks, providing testimony, supplying comments.
Aloha, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. I just wanted to, my name is Keopu Relitz. I'm Director of Early Learning and Health Policy with Hawaii Children's Action Network Speaks. I just wanted to implore you to the greatest extent possible to include teachers and educators in our community-based preschool programs. Some of them are actually on DOE campuses, like Head Start teachers are actually not DOE employees. And so to the greatest extent possible that we can include them, I think they would also appreciate the relief that this bill brings. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that nuance. Next, we have the Tax Foundation of Hawaii here via Zoom, providing comments if they're here.
Yes, good afternoon, Chair Woodson, members of the committee. This is Jade McMillan on behalf of the Tax Foundation. We will stand on our written comments we submitted on the measure. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Next, we have the Democratic Party of Hawaii providing testimony and support. And we have two individuals providing testimony also in support. Anyone else? Okay, seeing none, members, any questions? Seeing none, moving on to the next bill, we have HB 1331 relating to school supplies. This is a subsidy program. It's requesting an exemption. First up, we have the Department of Education providing testimony and support.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Heidi Armstrong, Department of Education. We stand on our written testimony and support, and this 22-23 pilot has been highly successful, very, very well received by both the schools, and the families are most appreciative. So thank you very much.
Thank you for being here. Next, we have the Charter School Commission providing testimony and support.
Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, members of the committee. Yvonne Lau on behalf of the Charter School Commission, and we stand on our written testimony in strong support of this program. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have HSTA providing testimony and support. Yeah, thank you.
Aloha, Laverne Moore. The Hawaii State Teachers Association supports this, and it has been a very successful program, and we'd like to see it continue. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have one individual testimony and support. Okay. Anyone else? HB 1331. Questions? Okay. Seeing none, moving on to the next bill, HB 1048. This is a Educational Expenditure Trust Fund for the Department of Education. One testifier, DOE, and support.
Hello, Chair Woodson, Vice Chair Martin, members of the committee. Keith Hayashi, Superintendent, testifying on behalf of the Department of Education. The department stands on its written testimony in support of this measure. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you, Superintendent. That's all I have on my list. Is there anyone else for this bill? Seeing none, are there any questions?
Chair, I have a question.
Please go ahead.
For the DOE, Superintendent? Can you tell me a little bit about the genesis of this bill? Where is it coming from? Because to my knowledge, I know that we also have a handful of other education special funds and the money that's appropriated to DOE's operating budget. I think with that being said, can you explain the purpose of this specific proposal? And in your view, if it's duplicative or if there's any conflict with any other sources that already exist?
Thank you for the question, Representative. This fund would allow us to accept, manage, and distribute funds and resources to support public education beyond what we currently have. I believe I'll ask Deputy Superintendent Otoguro to expand on that, to answer your question. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Representative. Good afternoon. Philanthropy has different avenues, different people that donate throughout the community, and it's a very personal give. And so what we've seen in the state are sometimes donors want to donate to a specific cause for a specific reason without overhead. In other cases, like we have philanthropy organizations that do that, and they distribute the funds, but there's a cost to doing that. So allow for the Department of Education to have a trust fund that establishes directly to benefit schools. There's literally no overhead to do that, right? And so that's just a choice. Other donors may want to give to the Hawaii School Foundation Association, and that's fine too. Precedent is set in my former employment in the state. Washington Place has a foundation that's managed by a wonderful group of volunteers. But we also have a Washington Place Trust. And so in some cases, the donors want to give directly to the Washington Place Trust for the specific purpose of taking care of the home, as an example. So that's really what it is. It just provides different venues for the donor side to provide whatever they want to do, because they don't want to be told how to spend the money, how we would spend the money.
Okay, so just to clarify, this is only for like donor funding?
Yeah, well, there's gifts. There are other federal grants that move. So it's a trust fund that could be provided for a number of different funding mechanisms.
Could you use, are you thinking about ESSER funds in this?
That's a good question. I don't know specifically if ESSER funds would be qualifying under that. It may be, but
that was my only concern.
Yeah, okay.
Because if it is ESSER funds, I mean, there's a number of spaces that we could spend that money.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Members, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, moving on to the next bill. We have HB 843. This is supplemental funding for remote schools, remote public schools. First up, we have Department of Education providing testimony and support.
Hi, it's me again. Good afternoon, Chair, Vice Chair, and members of the committee. Kurt Otoguro, Deputy Superintendent. Department stands on its written testimony and support. We also offered some comments with clarifications to how we define what a remote school is. And so those are some of the technicalities that we'd like to entertain. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Attorney General's office providing comments.
Good afternoon, Chair Woodson, Vice Chair Martin, and members, and Horiuchi from the Department of the Attorney General. As set forth in our testimony, we saw some phrases and terms in the bill that were a bit vague, so in our testimony, we've offered some suggestions to try to provide clarity. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We have HSTA providing testimony and support.
Laverne Moore speaking on behalf of Oso Tui Jr., President of the Hawaii State Teachers Association. We support House Bill 843. I want to point out that the student-weighted formula unintended consequences limit the academic programming for children in small and remote schools with limited student enrollment. Thus, because enrollment is less, they get less funding. It is important that we support those communities with small and remote schools because those students are our important futures of tomorrow, and we owe it to them to give them the type of education that schools with lots of money have. And teachers should not be doubling up and like the old days in the country schools. So this is an important bill and funding for those small remote schools. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much. That's all I have on my list. Is there anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Seeing none, members, any questions? Seeing none, moving on to the next bill, HB 55, Department of Education and Community Schools. First up, we have this DOE providing comments.
Good afternoon, Chair Woodson, Vice Chair Martin, members of the committee, Heidi Armstrong, Department of Education. We stand on our written testimony offering comments, and I'm available to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. We have Attorney General's Office providing testimony, offering comments.
Good afternoon, Chair and Vice Chair and members, and Horiuchi from the department. As we set forth in our testimony, at present, the bill doesn't provide for or doesn't specify a funding mechanism for the grant program, and so we have just suggested that some language be included in the bill that would specify the funding source. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Next, we have testimony from Waimea Middle Schools in support, HSTA in support.
Laverne Moore speaking for Osatui Jr., HSTA. We support House Bill 55, and we stand on our written testimony.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Hawaii After School Alliance providing testimony in support.
Hi, Chair Woodson, Vice Chair Martin, and members of the committee. I'm Jennifer Masutani, testifying on behalf of the Hawaii After School Alliance in support of HB 55. We all know that our schools struggle with academics and chronic absenteeism and face staffing shortages and a host of other issues, but schools don't have to face these challenges alone. We believe that every family and community member has strength and assets, and also that our school teachers and administrators bring a lot of strengths as well. So community schools is a strategy that galvanizes all of those folks to come together and leverage the wisdom that families bring and to coordinate the resources and programs to strategically meet needs of students and families. Community schools takes a collaborative approach where we ask students and families and community members to co-design solutions that address the barriers and inequities they face. This co-creation and creating shared responsibility is where we start to move from treating students and families as just beneficiaries and recipients to engaging them as contributors, partners, and leaders in the school, and that collaboration is really what creates transformational change. Community schools is a proven, time-tested strategy that can bring forth short-term results like improving family engagement and attendance and decreasing behavioral referrals. It's also proven to show longer-term results like closing the achievement gap, improving academic scores, and graduation rates. So we ask for your support of HB 55 so more schools can become community schools. Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your testimony. Next, we have Hawaii Children's Action Network Speaks, providing testimony in support. Thank you. Parents and Children Together in support. We have Democratic Party of Hawaii Education Caucus in support. Early Childhood Action Strategy in support. Pacific American Foundation in support. Hawaii Ohana Support Network in support. Kaimuki Middle School in support. And we have two individual testifiers both in support. Anyone else wishing to provide testimony on this bill? Seeing none, members, any questions? Okay. Seeing none, moving on to the last bill of the day. Proposed CONAM for establishing local school boards, HB 630. First up we have is the Board of Education providing comments. Mr. Chairman, thank you for being here.
Good afternoon, Chair Woodson, Vice Chair Martin, members of the committee, Bruce Loss, Board of Education. The board stands on its written testimony providing comments, and I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Next we have HSTA providing testimony in opposition in person.
Yes, the HSTA stands in opposition.
Thank you. Next we have Moms for Liberty of Honolulu, Ms. Burlett.
Thank you for the hearing.
Thank you.
My name is Cynthia Bartlett with Moms for Liberty, Honolulu County. I want to say that Walter Heen once said educational centralization is a mountain that defies Sisyphus. And what he meant by that is that the centralization is the issue here, and once we have a structure of power, it's very difficult to oppose it and change it. So I'm not surprised that the HSTA and the other people in the system will be highly opposed to this. But with an elected school board, the distribution of power is restored between the school board, the governor's office, and the legislature. That was always a triangle. When you have an appointed school board, the governor's office has twice the power. So they absorb the power of what the elected school board was. And so it's only the governor's office, which is supported by the unions, which is conflict of interest. And then they have the legislature. So Hawaii's highly centralized education system has concentrated enormous power in the hands of a relative few. And they're determined to keep it. But equity in education and social justice for our schools lies in allowing our counties to have their separate and elected school boards. And the rest of my testimony was written. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. Next, we have testimony in opposition from the Democratic Party of Hawaii. Next, we have testimony from Aloha Freedom Coalition in support. We have testimony from Cynthia Fujiwara in support. She's here, not present. James Wallace in person in support. We have Sabrina Sumner providing testimony support via Zoom.
Not present.
Thank you. We have testimony from Raymond Guizon from Maui in support via Zoom.
Not present.
Thank you. We have testimony from Laura Nakakane Lua in support via Zoom. Present?
Present, yes.
Ms. Nakalua.
Yes, aloha. Thank you, Chair Woodson and Vice Chair Martin. My name is Laura Nakanilua, and I am a resident of Kailua as well as the National Committee Woman representing Hawaii on the Republican National Committee. I stand by my written testimony as offered earlier and want to offer quick commentary as follows. I stand in strong support of this bill. The statewide construct of the Board of Education is not working. I feel as though we are not, our schools are failing to effectively educate our children. Our test scores across the board are below average. It is time to go back to county-affiliated school boards that can better meet the needs of the local communities. I also propose, as do many members of the Republican Party, that we let the people decide through a proposed constitutional amendment placed on an upcoming election ballot. At a time when transparency is being called for across the political spectrum, even through media such as, or written print such as Civil Beat, they're doing all kinds of series on transparency in government. I would think that this bill comes at an opportune time. There couldn't be a better time for a bill like this that encourages us to restore power locally in the communities and counties and districts where they belong, and not centralized, as Cynthia Bartlett so well explained, not centralized in government. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much for being here with us today. Next, we have Growing Pono Schools individual providing testimony and support. We also have testimony from Audriel Lamb providing testimony and support. And we have about 36 individuals all providing testimony and support. Is there anyone else wishing to provide testimony? Okay, seeing none, members, are there any questions? Okay, seeing none, recess. Meeting for decision-making on several bills. First up, we have is HB 1328, Charter Schools and Facilities Funding. Members, I would like to pass this with tech amendments, also simply defecting the date. Questions, comments, concerns? Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Chair recommends voting HB 1328 with amendments. Chair, Vice Chair vote aye. Representative Capella.
Aye.
Representative Martinez.
Aye.
Representative Matsuyoshi.
Aye.
Representative Peruso.
Aye.
Representative Quinlan.
Aye.
Representative Todd.
Aye.
Representative Garcia.
Aye.
Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Moving on, voting on HB 1345, Teacher Licensure Pilot Program. Members, I would like to propose a HD1, changing the pilot program from 3 to 5 years. We'll also request that the Hawaii Teacher Standards Board implement this pilot program as opposed to the Charter School Commission, and that the Kahai Y Institute for Higher Learning be used for the pilot program, and we will request that the amounts be blanked out with regards to the appropriation, and that it be applied for the Hawaii Teacher Standards Board, and defecting the date. Questions, comments, concerns? Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Chair recommends passing HB 1345 with an HD1. Seeing all members are present, are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Moving on to HB 1210, Alternate Sports League for West Oahu. Members, this proposal seems to be unworkable at this time. Particularly with West Oahu, the focus is on building more schools. They need about 5 schools in the short term. I would love to work on the neighborhood representatives on that issue. So therefore, we will defer. Moving on to the next bill, HB 658, Alternate Education Programs within the DOE. Members, the department already has the existing capacity to work with communities to establish these types of programs, these types of learning programs, and therefore we will defer. Moving on to HB 1046 with regards to healthcare services. Members, to continue the discussion, I would like to move this, defecting the date. Questions, comments, concerns? Vice Chair for the vote.
Chair recommends passing HB 1046 with amendments. Seeing all members are present, are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Okay, moving on to HB 942, Emergency Medical Responses in our DOE schools. Members, the recommendation is to pass this with the HD1. I want to clarify Section 1, page 1, line 15, and say that schools can determine the staff members that will be a part of this emergency response team. That's per DOE's testimony. Also on page 2, section 2, we will strip out that proposed language with regards to subsection 302A, subsection B, paragraphs 1 and 2, as it's too specific. We will also take out the entirety of page 3 and going through page 4, lines 1 and 2, as it's also too prescriptive. Also taking out the complementing language regarding those sections with regards to reporting. That's found on page 4, lines 3 and 4. And we will lift the remaining proposed language that's found in 302A. We will replicate that language in 302D to take care of charter schools and defect the date. Questions, comments, concerns? Vice Chair for the vote.
Chair recommends passing HB 942 with amendments. Seeing all members are present, are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Moving on to the next bill, HB 1223, Loan Forgiveness for Public School Teachers. Members, I would like to take out the paragraph with regards to delinquent accounts, as it is not needed and is too prescriptive. Also, I would like to make this applicable to our charter schools and defecting the date. Questions, comments, concerns? Vice Chair for the vote.
Chair recommends passing HB 1223 with amendments. Seeing all members are present, are there any noes or reservations?
Reservations.
Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Reservations.
Oh, I'm sorry,
Reservations
my
are-
bad.
Reservations.
Reservation for Representative Garcia. Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you. Moving on to HB 1327, tax credits for DOE and student library employees. Members, per DOE taxes recommendation on page 3, lines 4, we will add the phrase or deductions, and that will help us to prevent any duplication. Also on page 4, we will define qualified taxpayers with those that are aforementioned in the bill, but also add that they must be employees of the Department of Education, the Hawaii State Library System, or our teachers and TAs that are part of Head Start programs. Besides that, defecting the date. Questions, comments, concerns? Vice Chair for the vote.
Chair recommends passing HB 1327 with amendments. Seeing all members are present, are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Moving on to HB 1331, School Supply Subsidy Pilot Extension Program. I would like to move this along, defecting the date. Questions, comments, concerns? Vice Chair for the vote, please.
Voting on HB 1331, Chair recommends passing with amendments. Seeing all members are present, are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Moving on to HB 1048, Educational Expenditure Trust Program for our Department of Education. I would like to pass this, defecting the date. Questions, comments, concerns? Vice Chair for the vote.
Chair recommends, it is 1048.
Yes.
Okay. Passing HB 1048 with amendments. Seeing all members are present, are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Moving on to HB 843, Supplemental Funding for Remote Public Schools. Members, I would like to pass this with the HD1. Looking first on page 2, line 18, we'll simply take out the word high to make it to be applied more broadly just to schools. We'll also strike out the language found on lines 20 and 21. That's found on page 2 per AG's recommendation, as I agree that this language is relative and it's also simply not needed. Technical changes and defecting the date. Questions, comments, concerns? Vice Chair for the vote.
Chair recommends passing HB 843 with amendments. All members are present. Are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Moving on to HB 55, Department of Education and Community School. Members, this bill needs some massaging, but I would like to pass it forward, simply defecting the date for now, and we will take a look at the language later. Questions, comments, and concerns? Vice Chair for the vote.
Chair recommends passing HB 55 with amendments. Seeing all members are present, are there any noes or reservations? Seeing none, Chair, your recommendation is adopted.
Thank you, members. Moving on to the last bill, HB 630. This is the proposed Con-Am. Members, I read the testimony. I took a look at it very closely. I also listened to the testifiers. I appreciate the civility that ultimately took place in the room. Looking at it empirically, and specifically looking at the continental U.S., there are areas that have somewhere to the magnitude of 100 school boards. There are other areas that have fewer than 10. Some are elected, others are not. There is no direct positive correlation between these particular variables and increased learning outcomes. And so I cannot in good conscience put it on taxpayers to pay for this type of Con-Am proposal, as it does not lead to any increased learning outcomes and preparedness for our kids. So therefore, we will defer. Adjourn.